Good evening, DHC and Facebook family. We're here this evening to talk about some of the issues that we are faced with this season. We have the COVID pandemic going on, and this week we've also been reminded about the racism that is embedded in our society that we were not really thinking about too much, but now it has come to our forefront and we have to talk about it. Tonight, we're going to talk about resiliency in a world that is very uncertain, in a world that is facing issues that we haven't faced before. We have our children home with us that we have to homeschool. We have lost our jobs. Some of us have been furloughed without pay, and some of us have lost their businesses. But we do know this is not going to last forever. This is something that we are going to rise up from. And how do we rise up from this social isolation and come up on top, come up as victors and not victims? To help us talk about this broad subject, I have with me...
Good evening, DHC and Facebook family. My name is Carol Courier.
Good evening. My name is Waruguru Wanyuike.
Thank you, ladies, for agreeing to come and have this conversation this evening. To start it off, I'm going to call upon Carol to actually define for us what resiliency means. And in defining this, Carol, I want you to tell us what resiliency in terms of what we are going through.
Thank you for this opportunity. Resiliency is a very broad term, and it can be defined in very various ways. But in simple terms, it's the ability to bounce back in the midst of adversity. How do we go through that and be able to bounce back and come out successful? Currently, we are in the midst of a pandemic. Just this past week, we have just been reminded of the racism that exists in our community, in our nation. And when all those things weigh down on you, weigh down on families, weigh down on communities, there is trauma, it is tragic, and there is turmoil in our minds, in our homes, and the ability to bounce back, go through that and bounce back is what really is resiliency.
Thank you, Carol. I hear you say that when we are bouncing back, do you mean we bounce back to our original state, how we were before this happened, or do we bounce back even in a better or a more successful state?
One of the principles I live by is that experiences shape the future. Experiences make us better. We learn stuff from life experiencing. So in resiliency, we bounce back, we become better. We learn from the mistakes, we learn from our shortcomings. And when we get out stronger, better, more successful. So yes, we can come back to the same state, but then that is not good. Experiences should be able to allow us to reflect, to meditate, and to correct areas where we have gaps, so that when we come back out of those experiences, we are stronger and we are better as a community.
Thank you, Carol, for those insights. Right now, I'm going to switch over and go to Waruguru and try and find out how you are doing in your family, how the social distancing, social isolation is going on in your own family.
Certainly. Thank you so much for this opportunity and this question. Yeah, based with my family unit, as we know in the Bible, that's where it starts, in the family before we go to the community and go to the churches. In my own home, we have started doing different things. Like there has been the creativity of so many other things. I didn't know people love to paint and people love to color. So that is something that we are kind of doing differently. And also, like, yes, we do cook, but so even having the kids also play a role in cooking. But we have come up that we are putting it on a plate and setting it up like a picture, because we know at times people eat food because it's not because they're hungry, but even the presentation of the food will attract someone to eat the food. So that has been one thing that we have been being able to birth out of this adversity of COVID-19 and now racism, and being able to create out of our lemons, we have lemonade.
Wonderful, wonderful. That is so good. If I might add, in my own family as well, the kids are learning to cook. The kids are actually making a meal for us or deciding what we are going to eat, and we are coming together and making very interesting meals, but it's surprising what the kids can come up with. I don't know, Carol, if your own family, you guys have been creative with either, what we've talked about or some different things.
As my family, what we have tried to do is to occupy our outdoor spaces. Getting the kids out there together with us and just making use of the beautiful weather in Minnesota currently, playing sports, spending time in the evening as a family, setting up dinner. As I said, being creative even in the way we present dinner, because currently we're not going to restaurants. So when we come home and we, sometimes it gets old to eat the same traditional meals. So we put something different in there. We also have learned to establish a routine. Our kids just got done with school, but we had a routine so that we can cope with this. Just like it would be in a regular school day, they would wake up, make their beds, come down for breakfast, and then get to school. And when school is done, then we get going to these other extracurricular activities, which could include a walk by the lake or just sitting outside playing basketball or playing games. So that is just how creative we are. My kids are also learning how to wash dishes and do a good job. We are still working on the cooking, so I'm looking forward to those days.
Yes, and in cooking, I forgot to say, the kids are also asking if we can cook some of the food that they usually eat in a fast food restaurant. For instance, we have learned to make very, very good chicken nuggets in our house, and the kids really enjoy eating the homemade chicken nuggets, and now they know what ingredients go into that. So that's a good thing.
So just to add to that, I was going to say nature is so therapeutical, so even taking walks in the park has been something that we have been practicing, because we don't have to go run or exercise, but even just walking in those trails, it has been known to be so therapeutical, because even that smell of the fire or smell of smoke, or even hearing the birds sing and the water drops, it is a sense of like bringing that accepting nature and being grateful that you even have the senses of feeling it, smelling it, and hearing it. So gratitude goes a long way.
So with being forced to stay home just so that we can contain the spread of this COVID-19, we have been brought together as family units. Both parents are home at the same time, and like usually when many of us work, shift work, and we alternate when we go to work. But many times now we have found ourselves at home in the evenings, and while that is a good thing, it has its own challenges. I'm gonna start with Carol. Do you see any, or have you experienced any challenges now that you and your husband and the children are home, not one day, but for almost more than a month, you're home together all the time?
Well, of course, we've been home for a while now, and working from home, he's working from home, the kids have been doing schooling from home. So in the morning, everybody is in their space. And that being together sometimes can be overwhelming sometimes. It is a good thing, it's a beautiful thing. But that also can come with its own challenges, because now there is 3 meals a day and in between snacking that is constant, and you are working, you have to monitor kids' schooling, you have to take them out for physical education. And so some of the challenges we've been having as a family is, who is going to take a break and go out to the field, to our backyard, which is our backyard, and play with the kids, or are we just going to send them alone? Or who is going to do all the dishes 3 times a day? Or I need my space, and I don't have that space because everybody is all over the place. And so that sometimes can create unnecessary tension, and you start seeing faults that you could otherwise never see, because on our normal, regular day, we are not always together like we are now. So you start seeing those little faults in kids. Maybe you notice that your kids are jumping around too much. You notice your husband is doing stuff and interfering with your arrangement in the kitchen all the time, and it can be irritating, but sometimes the beauty of it is that we have learned a lot, and we have learned to not necessarily overlook those challenges or those weaknesses, but to address them as they come.
Yeah. Thank you. I was laughing and smiling when you were saying that, because I know in my own home, being home together all the time has brought issues that were in the background, and now they have become so visible. For instance, I just realized that my husband loves his computer. I know he loves being on the computer, but I did not know how much he loves being on the computer. And even though he does everything that he's supposed to do, he told me he waited last minute when I'm about to get home, then he'll get those things done. But that's how sometimes I am too. There are some things that, I keep procrastinating, but I know my husband is about to get home, so I quickly run and do them. But just both of us at home, we are learning a lot about each other. We are learning to ask for help. We are actually even learning to offer help in, things that should be done. And even though sometimes we are unknowingly helping each other, we are almost, reconvening and really trying to see how we can best serve our family. So a lot of grace, a lot of kindness going around in our home. How about Flo? How is your house doing with being together constantly?
Certainly. I mean, of course, it's a struggle. But I think it's going back to how we draw strength from one another. So what does that look like? What does that feel like? So, I mean, even having that opportunity that even I'm making that meal, that fresh meal before my husband goes to work, also is an opportunity for me to be there and do it. But also I realized that he won't say it, but he enjoys being served. I don't serve him the other times. So right now he enjoys, but even he won't tell me. So I think that is one that I'm saying he's grateful for, even if he doesn't say it. So which I really do appreciate. And also even having our children be leads of prayer. Prayer which keeps us together. Like we have our young one who, even before everybody else has sat on the table and they have started eating, and she say, "Didn't you pray? Why didn't you not pray?" So I mean, even just being grateful of how everybody else is coming in and how we are making it, as much as we are seeing fault, there is still like grace and hope out of all these faults that we still have on top of COVID-19.
Having talked about some of the issues that we are going through, I know we are not alone in this. Many of, or most of families are dealing with, issues in the home, and we cannot stay in dealing with those issues. We need to learn how to cope effectively, how to live with each other, how to support one another, and how to come out as a family unit and come out on top. So there are different ways that we can be resilient. One of the ways is being flexible, And I'm going to have Caroline talk about flexibility and flexibility in terms of resiliency.
Well, in the midst of any adversity, sometimes it is good to adjust our routine, our ways of doing things, our priorities, and be a little bit flexible and address things that you have immediate control of, and let go of whatever you don't have control of, especially right now, in the midst of this crisis and the other crisis that has just been amplified again during this COVID season, which is racism. And so in the midst of that, be flexible in your daily routine, in the way you do things, in your budgeting at home, in the way you talk to your spouse, in the way you handle your children, in the way you communicate with your friends. Be flexible, because we cannot meet and have a catch-up sister session, but use the technology that is within your means, whether that is Zoom, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, whatever is within your reach. Be flexible enough to allow yourself to use whatever you can at the moment, work with, to address the issues at hand. Because when you don't do that, then you become overwhelmed. We will become overwhelmed as a community, and immediately we become overwhelmed as a family. And then that stress level starts feeding into the community, and before you know it, it piles down to a whole city. Be flexible in sometimes just letting the dishes be. Nobody is going to die if dishes are not done one day. Being flexible in the way that you allow yourself to do some self-care, and give yourself time in the midst of your busy schedule, even if it's 10 minutes or 30 minutes, to be alone, and the flexibility also to allow yourself grace, because God is a graceful God. Be flexible in being gracious to your spouse. Be flexible in being gracious to your children. Be flexible in being gracious to your colleagues at work who are not getting stuff done because you're doing everything remotely. And so you're the one that you end up picking up after them. So be flexible in this situation, as long as the flexibility is not causing more anxiety or creating more stress.
Thank you, Carol. You've said that so well. I don't know, Flo, if you have anything to add to being flexible in this season.
Certainly. I mean, a lot of flexibility comes even how we handle our mind. Because, I mean, at times we have it in our mind, it has to be done a certain way and a certain time. So even giving yourself some grace, giving yourself permission to sit and do nothing. If you need to sit with your pajamas. If your kids is the one day they're saying, I don't feel like putting my clothes on, do I have to? I mean, okay, negotiate, but also it's not the end of the world if they decide to be in their pajamas that one day. And also that flexibility comes along with appreciation. You have the flexibility, the ones who are working from home, the flexibility to be with your children, and as you're homeschooling, yes, it is difficult, but even finding that time to appreciate that you have the opportunity to be with them at home and be flexible, because we know others who are out there don't have the opportunity. The parents have to work out of the home and the kids are by themselves at home. So even also appreciating, it go back to gratitude. What are you grateful for? So even that flexibility that you can work from home and have your kids with goes a long way.
That's wonderful, and that's really so meaningful. We find ourselves in this situation. This is a new situation. We really haven't been here before. So let's give ourselves a lot of grace. Even when we make mistakes, it's okay to make mistakes, but let's learn from those mistakes and move forward. This is not a time to start to continue stewing in the same mistake for even a day or two. No. Let's move forward. We have to. We're in this together, and we're going to come out on top together. I'm gonna come back to you, Flo, and we're gonna talk about a different way that we can be resilient, and that's being adaptable. what does that mean in terms of moving out of this crisis that we are in? How can we be adaptable? How can we move forward in a positive way?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Adaptability, I mean, it's with this COVID situation, we don't have a choice. We have to jump on and move on. So we are being hard forced to be in it, go through it, even knowing that we don't know what is ahead of us. The future is unclear. I mean, there is no light at the end of the tunnel yet. I mean, information is changing up every now and then. Based on our networks too, also information, kind of goes different in different ways. So what we can do for ourselves is also, as we are trying to adapt the situation, also going to our Heavenly Father, prayer. And also if it is that connection that you have with your support group, also how do you connect? How do you adapt that? Now we are adapting. We are not, face to face, but we are doing Zooming. I mean, if it feels like you have to meet a friend at the park and then sit 6 feet apart, that also is adapting the situation. So finding those creative ways how you can adapt to the situation and still remain in place and not in isolation.
One other way that we can connect with each other, instead of texting a friend, it's better. We are so isolated. Pick up the phone and call. Let's hear each other's voices. We cannot meet physically, but we can talk. When you talk to someone, you can, by the tone of their voice, you can be able to tell where they are better than a text. Somebody can text you how well they are doing, but if you talk to them, just maybe putting 2 sentences in, somebody can break down in tears, and you can be able to engage them and see if you can help them. So please, if we can call instead of texting. I know recently, even as parents who never used to text, now we are texting all the time. Let's try and adapt, go back to actually calling our friends and hearing their voices and even catching up in that way. Carol, we are continuing to talk about adaptability. If you can chime in and tell us how we can adapt better.
Well, various ways we can adapt better is, let's just as things evolve, as we said, we are living in times that we are uncertain of what will the future hold. For sure, COVID is not going anywhere soon. Those of you who are scientists, you know that we are going to be living with COVID for a long time. I also want to mention that racism is not going away anytime soon, because I feel like that also has to be intertwined in this discussion. But we cannot adapt to some things. We cannot adapt and conform to that. So we need to speak up. We need to do what is right. We need to call out injustice. We need to stand in the gap. We need to pray. The Bible says that when my people pray, God comes down and heals the land. He wipes away all the evil. He wipes away all the illnesses. He heals the land. So more than anything, if there is one way we are going to adapt, it is to call upon the name of the Lord to not only heal the infirmities of the land, whether that is disease, whether that is hatred, for God to heal the land and sanctify the souls so that men and women can live according to God's purpose will for this land. So I don't know what I could say more about that than that. Prayer is really, really important at this season. And also stay positive that things will get better, because we serve a living God.
We do serve a living God. I think we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about our children.
Hello, my name is Imani, and since of the coronavirus, I've been missing out on school and friends. I can't play with my friends because we have to social distance in school. We also have to social distance, so I miss that too.
Hello, my name is Aiden, and what I am missing on because of coronavirus is sports like NBA and the NFL, and that I can't play sports like football and basketball with my friends.
Hi, my name is Jasmine, and what I miss about is I miss the whole church, and I miss my friends from school and everyone else.
Hello, my name is Sean, and some things that I miss out on, like coronavirus, is like I like to go swimming sometimes, and I'm missing out on swimming and spending time with friends and family at the swimming pool. That's what I'm missing out on because of coronavirus.
My name is Lexi, and I miss interacting with people and learning about God with other people.
Hello, my name is Ethan, and what I miss about is church, because we got to have services and got to go to practice on Saturdays, and I miss the snacks downstairs.
Hello, my name is Sydney, and I just wanted to say that the coronavirus has made me miss out a bunch of stuff like birthdays and like weddings and funerals, and I just wish that it could go back to normal.
Being home with our children, and especially in this school season, and being given the opportunity to homeschool them, we have come to learn our children in a different way. We have come to know our children differently. Me personally, I have learned how much my children are independent. My children work together really well. Of course, they are twins. They've been together forever, but they work really well together. That's the part I knew. But I have learned that they work really well independently. They do their school separately in their rooms. They don't interact. And that's something that I did not know. But I have also come to learn that my children do not like going outside. I have had to literally force them to go play outside. And we've had conversations, we've had fights, we've had compromises. I have promised things that I'm going to buy just so that I can keep them outside. My kids can negotiate from now until tomorrow until they get what they want. So let's talk a little bit about our children. I'm glad the three of us have children that are in different age groups, and as we know, different age groups demand or have different expectations and different ways of parenting. So I will start with Carol. I want you to talk to us a little bit about things that you have found out about your children. It doesn't all have to be, positive things. We do know there are negative things when, especially in children who are growing up, they are trying things, they are trying to wiggle and really know where they are in the family or even in their community. If you can talk to us briefly just about your children.
Family, one is 8, the other one is 9, going to 21, if you know what that means. But as we continue to spend more time with them now by force, we are learning so many things. Number one, as she said, mine are also very independent, and they make their independence known. I have a girl that is very stern, very independent. She knows what she wants, and nobody will stop her. Very outspoken. And one of the things that we've been learning about them is, number one, I am one that is usually against technology. So my children normally don't spend a lot of time on technology. So I thought they were behind. Little did I know that they really know so much. Now they are teaching me. Mm-hmm. So we've had the technology fight in this house. Mm-hmm. A lot of technology fight, because previously it was only weekends, 2 hours. But now they have this technology and is there the whole day with them, And then after school, I'm trying to tell them this thing is bad. So I'm arguing with them. This thing is bad, but this thing is good because it is our only means now of going to school. So that is one major fight that I've been having with my children, and they know how to create their own emails, to do that, to go to social media sites. And one of the things I've had to do is to be on top of it as a parent, because I can't just let that go unchecked. And so to talk with them, to have those meetings, sometimes I don't win. They win most of the time because my ways, I was raised in Kenya, they are Americans and they know their rights. So those are some of the challenges we have in the technology fight is real in our home. There's so many other positive things that I've learned about my children. Once they get their routine going, it's a smooth sailing. I wouldn't say we've struggled a lot in any way with distance learning because after one day, they got their routine and they went. But the major struggle for us in our home with the children has been getting them off the technology and getting them out to spend more time, especially with our 9-year-old.
Now that you're speaking about technology, my children too, they love Zoom. They have games that they are playing in the technology after school, but we are trying to monitor that and to know where they are, and they become smart. They say, Mom, but we're just playing with our church friends, and truly I look and it is their church friends. But then I have to tell them, even with your church friends, you cannot play, non-stop. You still have to regulate how much you are playing. And they find it hard to understand that. They think if it is with their church friends, then it's okay to be on the technology for as long as they want. But that's where parenting comes in, and that's where we have to jump in and help them. And even though, what they are doing is okay, it's a way they are connecting. They haven't seen their church friends in a long time. You feel, bad for them. You are where they are. I almost want to tell them, at least you can play with your church friends. I haven't seen my church friends in months now. But still, we have to parent. I have to move on to Warugoro.
Yeah, so there has been a lot of creativity, actually, and then some skills that have been built. Yes, it hasn't been easy, but I also would say it has been bad. Like the problem-solving skill is one that I'm feeling is coming up, and they are able to problem-solve their situation. They're also that when they're problem-solving, whatever the situation is, let's say like I'm telling them they can't be on the iPad or on the computer for a long time, then there comes the negotiation. So they are negotiating, saying, I'm talking to my school friend, and you kind of don't want to be the parent that says, oh, you can't be talking to them all day. So it's like we're having those buckets of times when you tell them this is the time you can talk to your school friends and church friends. And also even having the kids be connected in different platforms has been really greatly rich. In DHC, my two children they look forward to, especially my youth, she looks forward to those meetings. I don't know what Teacher Joe she's doing a good job, but you can tell like she's excited when Thursday comes. My younger one too also likes getting into the younger kids group because she feels prayer is important and she wants to pray and teach the other kids how to pray. So there's some skills that are coming out, and you can see that there are little people who know what they want for themselves and where they hope to, sharpen some of those skills and enhance their skill. So also is even appreciating that they are coming and saying, I can do this. Can we do it together? How can you help me get through this? And also I think giving them permission to see their world is bigger than Minneapolis. So then that way, even after COVID, that they know, my home is bigger than Minneapolis. I can go elsewhere with my creativity and still be okay.
I think I would like to add something that sometimes many of us, I included, forget. In the midst of this crisis, the loneliness, the boredom, and the expression of how we are feeling, especially for the children, can be tough. Because as parents, we are like, we are going to get over this. And children have questions. There's something they are feeling, but they're not being able to express it. So what I have been trying to do, and what I would encourage parents to do, is to intentionally talk to your children. Ask them, what are you feeling? What are you thinking about this situation? What are your fears about the virus? What are your fears about the future? Even sitting down with them and talking to them about that you don't know, that you're also letting them know that you're also afraid. And letting them that we at this time we're depending on God solely, totally, because we don't know.
Yeah.
And having those open conversation. I learned from a few friends of mine that when I sit down with the children, I speak to them as if they are adults, because we are not parenting or raising children. We are raising adults. We are raising them to be adults. So having those conversations you think you can only have it with adults, have those conversation, honest conversation about the fears, the facts, the myths. Break them down with your children the way they understand, and guide them along the way. We are the parents. We are stewardship. We are the stewards for those children. So as we guide them through this season, because this is history, it will be judged by how resilient they become when this season is over.
That's wonderful. It's really difficult sometimes for us as parents to be vulnerable to our children and really tell them, I don't know either, but let's find out together. And also, it is important to actually ask the children what they think about what is going on. Let's hear it from them. The children are watching TV. The children know exactly what is going on. They may not understand it completely, like we don't understand it completely. But if we start by hearing where they are, ask them, what's a pandemic? In their own little world, they may have an explanation of what it is, and we can add on to that and really try and help them comprehend it in as much as possible. In doing that, they are not left wondering or being so scared and internalizing all that they don't know. And when, even for us adults, when we internalize things that we don't know, they will come out in a way that is not healthy. When we know what we are dealing with, as we said, then we can be flexible and adapt to it, knowing exactly what we are dealing with.
And also to add to that is, allow your children to criticize you. Let them tell you what they think about you. What is one thing they appreciate about you, and what is one area of growth. I mean, even you hearing from your children, I think you will take in and be like, okay, I see it. I hear you. Allow it to happen. As you allow that, then you're enhancing those relationships, building and enhancing those relationships.
So your children learn a lot from us, and sometimes, and most of the time, our children, mimic what we do. We are their best role models. So let us be aware of what we are portraying to our children, what kind of behavior we are role modeling. We cannot tell our children to be off social media when we are in so much social media that we cannot, it cannot take 5 minutes before we scroll on our phone. At the same time telling our children they can't. So let's role model the behavior that we want our children to engage in. In the middle of this pandemic, a lot is happening in our community as well. In our town here in Minneapolis, we witnessed a crime that we haven't seen before. We witnessed one of our own, our brother, lose his life in broad daylight. There is a lot being done by the community. There's a lot of riots going on right now as we speak. There's a lot of fear and anxiety and anger. How do we, in a healthy way, talk about racism, which has been with us forever? How do we help our children understand? How do we help our sons not be afraid of their lives every time they get out of their house? Flo, if you want to start us out.
Sure. And to say racism, it's a really big word because all of us have experienced it differently. Whether it's at the grocery store when they're trying to run your check and they're kind of doubting whether your check is going to go through. If you think that's not racism, it is. And when you walk into a store and you ask, can I help you? Or do you need help? And you haven't asked for help, just know it's just something. There's a prejudgment about people who look like you and dress like you. And that's why they're thinking that you're there you have an agenda. What we can do is understanding where this is coming from. Being an immigrant, remember we have a layer of I'm an immigrant, I have an accent, and then on top of that, I'm black. So how do we go through this process of racism and living in America? Many of us have come here, we have families, so we're not going back to Kenya anytime soon. But then how do we adapt? How do we move our needle forward? Because once our kids graduate, majority of us, our kids will not go back to Kenya. But how do we remain safe but having intentionally open conversations with our families and our children? So it is understanding the history of America. Also your roots too. When you talk to your kids, are you talking to them how you grew up, how you have been socialized? Because I can only share what I know. I can't give you a cheeseburger if all I've known is a chicken nugget. So I mean, even us understanding our roots, how they can be seen, and also affect us how we deliver our information to our children. Let's not tell our children not to do stuff without an explanation, but let them understand the reason why you're telling them, I don't want you doing that, but I want you, should you be in that predicament, the choice you make, not a choice that you regret. Because even your 5-year-old has a choice, can decide to either to do wrong or do right. So even giving children a chance that they have that power to make the choice, because even when they're in school and they have that child who's bullying them, because racism is not out just on the street. Right now we have our children in the home, but we know even there are other things that they're experiencing. But what does that look like? So once we start having those open conversations, let's do it intentionally, and also reaching out to the wider community. If something is working for Carol's home, in Carol's home, maybe it's something I can take from her home and apply it in my own home. And if something is working in my home, let us be resourceful. We say we don't have the resources, but let us be resourceful by using one another based on what is working at your place and what is working in my place. So that's the only way we'll draw strength from one another. Of course, calling our council members, we need to do that if we are not going to go out the streets. Also calling Hennepin County commissioners, let your voice be heard, writing the letter to our senator. We have all ways that we can exercise our democracy, right? Also, even don't forget to do your census if you haven't done it. So please make sure you complete that form.
Thank you, Warugoro. What I hear you say is that even though what's happening now is not what we want to see, we are in it right now. But how do we help our children, help our families function in this season in a healthy way while we are moving forward? So teaching our children what racism really is. It's not only somebody losing their life, but what happens behind that? How can our children be able to recognize racism that is happening all around them and be able to identify it and actually know what to do if they are facing a situation like that? How can they either remove themselves from the situation or prevent themselves from walking into the situation? I know sometimes the situation follows you, but how do you behave around that? Carol, if you have anything to add.
Well, talking of racism, it has been a deep-rooted problem, not only in America, but all over the world for many, many years. But we're going to talk specifically about America because this is where we are, this is where we're raising our children, this is where we work, this is where we live. And as you all know, COVID-19 has just exposed and amplified that the naked truth about racism, because, as you know, minority communities and especially black communities have been affected more negatively than everybody else due to systematic racism. So what do we do about that? How do you recognize racism at your place of work, at your child's school? Is to be intentionally aware, intentionally advocate for yourself. I have learned over the years that I will advocate for myself. I will refuse to take anything less because God has created me and given me the same abilities and power like everybody else. And I deserve to be here. Just like the trees, just like the stars, I have a right to be here. And instilling those values in your children. What I would urge all of us to do is to be present. Be present in your child's school. Go for those meetings. Join your children's PTO board. If we are not at the table, the system racism continues because other people who don't look like you, who don't understand you, will make decisions which obviously will not favor you. So be at the table at your school. Make sure at work you are at the table. Don't be afraid to apply for leadership positions at work and advocate for yourself. If they deny, find out why they denied you and pick this one instead of the other one. The struggle is real. I have lived it. I live it every day. So I try to, in the recent times, and especially this past week when it was blasted, you can imagine what we don't see on TV or on camera because it has never been recorded. I have been talking to my children when they ask me questions like, what does it mean to be in police custody? What does it mean to be discriminated? What are the signs? So in class, I said, in school, if you always raise your hand and the teacher doesn't pick you, I say, you need to ask the teacher why they're not picking you up. If you're not appointed for leadership positions at school, ask the teacher why they're not appointing you and as you are as good. You're good or even better. And also reaffirm them. Tell them they are beautiful. Tell them there's nothing wrong with their kinky hair. Wear your hair naturally if you can. Make a bold statement. We are living in times where, as a parent, you have to make those bold steps and talk to your children to, first of all, know who they are. The moment that you know who you are, you're created in the image and likeness of God. Then it does not matter what anybody else think about you. You will walk in your purpose and attain your God-given power and attain and get that ability to the fullest of your potential that God has given you. So the first value I always want to say it is, let your children know who they are and do not allow anyone to mess with their self-esteem. Because the moment they feel that they are not good enough because they are dark, they're not pretty enough because their hair is kinky, they are not good enough because their parents have an accent, then their self-esteem start to go down. So start affirming your children right now at home that they are okay. Their brown skin, their dark skin, their kinky hair is okay. They are unique. God created them and said it looked good. You look like me. I am pleased. And there is nothing wrong with you. So we have to model this at home. We also have to walk in that confidence, in that purpose that God has given you. You have to model good behavior because then children will not want to be like this white family. They will want to be like you. So be a leader. We need to see more black leaders in our community, more black teachers, more black doctors, more black professors. Because our children just go to school and they look and everybody is white. They go to the store, all the dolls are white. Buy them dolls that look like them. Introduce them to mentors that look like them. Let them know that if a black man can be successful, if you are a successful black person, mentor a young child. Let them know that they can do this because people relate more when they see that somebody that looks like them has made it. And one more thing. Vote. Don't just complain. Register and vote. If you are not at the political table, if you elect leaders that don't represent you, this issue will never end. And also don't look down upon yourself. God has not given you a spirit of timidity. God has given you a spirit of power and a sound mind. So call out injustice. Don't be neutral. The Bible tells us that we should call out injustice. If you're not standing out for injustice, then you're not accomplishing God's commission in your life. There's so many ways to do that. As she said, call your county, write to your mayor, ask your children to write, tell them, let them express themselves, and be a good citizen. You cannot be calling out if you're not being a good citizen. Be a good citizen, but also remember that you belong here. You have a right to be here, and nobody should make you feel any less. So fight for your right. It is a God-given commission. I can go on and on about it.
Just to add to what Carol said, if at the table, if you show up at the table and there's no seat for you, bring your own seat.
Yes.
Don't wait to be offered a seat.
Yeah.
And also, because you have crossed the river, bring somebody with you so that the work can continue. If you recruit another one and you are gone, when you are gone and your time is up, then somebody else will be doing the rich work that you've been doing.
Yes, let's not continue to say our children are the leaders of tomorrow. They are the leaders of today. So as she is saying, bring somebody with you, mentor somebody, let somebody learn your trade, train somebody to do your work after you are gone. And those people are our children. Let us talk to them about what is going on in the political arena. Let us teach them how to behave appropriately even when they are angry. Let us teach them to respect authority and to be, as Carol said, to respect themselves and to value themselves and to speak up for themselves. Always, always, always. We cannot be intimidated. As long as we are speaking our truth, let's speak our truth quietly, speak our truth boldly and with confidence. And at the end of the day, let us pray for each other, pray for our children, pray for our country, pray for our leaders.